All right, welcome back to the Rugged Athlete Podcast. We're doing it a little differently today. Got a solo episode for you, so it's just me, Austin. And in today's episode, I wanted to take the time to just share my career journey, to share my story of where it all started, how it's gotten to where it is today with Rugged Athlete. But from that start point to now, there's a lot. I'm just giving you a heads up. My resume is all over the place. It's crazy. So try to keep this so it's not a long episode, but there's a lot to it. But I wanted to share my journey because I do think it provides some pretty solid kind of why Rugged Athlete is the way that it is and why my training philosophy is the way that it is. And because all of my experiences and all the different places I've been have really played a massive role and have shaped who I am and what my training philosophy looks like. So I'm going to share all of that stuff. And before I do, though, I have some exciting news, probably more exciting for me than it is for you. But the news is the Rugged Athlete Podcast is officially sponsored. We got our first sponsor. I think that's pretty awesome. And got to give a shout out to Ready Bar and shout out to Ryan, the owner, friend of the show. Ready Bar is our first official sponsor. Now, what is Ready Bar? Ready Bar is a meal replacement bar, but it's more than just a meal replacement bar. It's high protein, it's high carbohydrates, and it really has everything that you need. And comes in 4 different flavors. PB&J, which is the OG, which I've had, and it's actually very good. What else do we got here? We got oatmeal cream. I've had that one. That one's really good too. And then there's 2 that I haven't had. Don't want to mess it up. Chocolate peanut caramel. Haven't had that one, but it sounds solid. And then espresso mocha. That one sounds addicting. I'm actually really excited to try that. The nutrition facts on here, I've got the PB&J one pulled up. 500 calories per bar. It's got 14 grams of fat, 74 grams of carbs, lots of carbs there, and then 25 grams of protein, which is very solid. Also, I didn't even notice this at first, but you got 510 milligrams of sodium, 410 milligrams of potassium, and 130 milligrams of calcium. So you're getting over 1,000 milligrams of electrolytes. I think is very important for something that is considered a meal replacement because meals, food, that's where you're going to get the vast majority of your electrolytes. So when you're doing this job, when you're fighting wildfires, you need to make sure that your food has the adequate amounts of electrolytes. This bar has everything. Now, I want to just share my story and background real quick on how I got hooked up with Ready Bar because I think it's pretty cool. I actually got hooked up with Ryan and Ready Bar probably a year and a half ago. Yeah, a year and a half ago at this point. This is before Ready Bar was even a thing. So I actually got to try some beta test samples of the PB&J bar. And I got to try it because my friend, Megan Lautz, dietitian, we were both putting on a workshop together. She was doing nutrition. I was doing fitness. She had a bunch of samples from Ready Bar. And so she brought them, got to try them out there. And then at the end of the workshop, she was like, hey, I've got all these extra Ready Bars. I don't really want to take them back on the plane. Do you want to take them? I was like, absolutely, I do. I came home with all of these PB&J Ready Bars. And let me tell you, they were clutch. So I was training some clients at the gym or at a gym at the time. And you know this if you've ever done personal training or ever trained people or ever worked at a gym. You got clients training at random times throughout the day. And sometimes it just works out to where you either are training people during your normal meal times or you just it just works out in a weird way to where, you're going a long time without eating. And so I would keep a few of these in my backpack and it was so clutch when I could just pull one out and have essentially everything that I needed to just keep me pushing through, give me energy. I'm telling you, these bars saved my life a couple of times. Just in the context of training people at the gym. I told Ryan this, my first impression of why I think this bar would be so helpful for the wildland firefighter profession is because these things don't melt. They're not like these chocolate covered candy bar protein bars. They're shelf stable for multiple years. They're going to be easy to store. You don't need to refrigerate anything and they're not going to melt because they're not covered in this chocolate coating that almost every other protein bar has, or at least ones that taste good. If they don't have that, they're usually just chalky and gross. Shout out to Ready Bar. Go check them out. You'll have a link in the description of this episode, and you'll see them on social media because I'm going to tag them. But go check out Ready Bar. Try out their products. Like I said, I've had them. They're very solid. Can't recommend these bars enough. All right, let's get into my story. Now, I want to preface my story by saying this is going to be mostly strength and conditioning. Like, if you're coming to this podcast episode as a wildland firefighter and you're really just interested about how all this stuff relates to wildland firefighting, we'll get there, but there's a lot before that, and almost all of it's strength and conditioning. And I say this a lot, but it's worth repeating over and over again. I consider myself a strength and conditioning coach who has done wildland firefighting. I'm not a wildland firefighter who does fitness. I'm a strength and conditioning coach by trade, by education, by master's degree, by experience. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Wildland firefighting is just where I've kind of ended up, and it's where I've decided to really hone in on the specifics there. So just keep that in mind as we're going through all of this. So where does all this start? I'm going to go way back. Because my journey really started when I was, I don't even remember, maybe 13 or 14 years old. I want to say 13. And I had my baseball coach at the time. My baseball coach randomly told me one day that he thinks I have the talent, the skill, and the work ethic to play college baseball. And this was the first time anyone had said anything like this to me ever. Before this point, I was just obsessed with baseball because I just loved it and I was good at it. This was the first time anyone gave me that idea and put the thought into my head of I could play college baseball. And I don't know what it was exactly, but that flipped a switch for me. It changed everything. From that moment on forward, I became obsessed with the goal of playing college baseball, and it became a dream. Like, it became a driving force behind everything that I did. And I've got so many examples, but I'll give you a bunch of my favorite examples of how obsessed I was with this dream. The two biggest ones are I became locked in on like studying and researching the college recruiting process. I mean, I was spending my free time on, message boards and forums. Like, this is before social media. That's how freaking old I am. So I was going on message boards and I was asking strangers questions like, how do I talk to a coach? How do I do this? I don't know. I was researching all kinds of stuff. And I actually bought a book, and I have it with me. It's still on my bookshelf. I don't know if it's gonna work, but it's College Bound: The Official Guide to Playing College Baseball. I can't tell you how many times I read this book cover to cover. This was like my go-to, The Official Guide to Playing College Baseball. I would read this over and over again. I would study. I would do everything that it said. I would go on the message boards. I would look up everything, the whole timeline. I had a whole timeline from like my freshman year of high school mapped out to like my senior year of how to get recruited. I remember I even made a list. I made a list of like 100 schools when I was like, I was maybe even in eighth grade or a freshman in high school. A list of colleges to reach out to. And I typed up a letter and printed one out for each school, customized it. So I was, making the letter specific to the coach and the school I was sending it to. And I mailed out like over 100 letters when at this point, I was probably like a sophomore. I don't know. Probably tells you when to send out letters in here. I just followed what the book said. I was crazy. And that was just about the recruiting process in general. What really, really changed the game for me was, I think, my freshman year of high school. During football, played football and everything at my school, and we did like our initial weigh-ins, and I was literally the smallest kid on the team. I think I weighed 120 pounds going into high school, and that was eye-opening to me. I was like, I am literally the smallest kid in the entire football program, varsity to freshman. I'm the smallest one. So I was like, okay, my dream is to play college baseball. That means I got to get bigger. I got to get stronger. I got to live in the weight room. And that is where, like, that realization is where I started really locking into weight training, strength training, the weight room, all this stuff. And I remember same thing. I'm going on these message boards and researching lifting routines, and I'm researching training programs, agility drills, speed training. I remember I had a subscription to Stack magazine, and every month I think I would get it would come in the mail, and I'd be so pumped, literally like I'm looking forward to this every month. I'm opening it. I'm like looking at all these agility drills and speed training things and adding them to my program. And I remember my first training program I ever wrote for myself was when I was in my freshman year of high school. And that was 20 years ago. That's how freaking old I am. But I've been writing training programs for now 20 years. And that was pretty much my entire high school. Could be summed up as I'm obsessed about playing college baseball and going through these drastic obsession like tendencies to get there. Last thing I remember from high school is I started, like I said, I knew I had to gain weight. So I was tracking my macros, as like a junior in high school, tracking my protein, tracking my calories. I would track it on a notebook. I would literally write down everything that I ate. And now 20 years later, I'm having my one-on-one coaching clients do the same thing. And, they're telling me like, oh, I forgot to do it. I'm like, well, I was 16 years old doing it. So you could figure it out if I could do it at 16. Fast forward a little bit, fulfilled my dream of playing college baseball, got in Hendrix College, a Division III school in Arkansas, and naturally studied kinesiology just because I just loved it. I loved learning about it. I had a really cool moment. I want to say it was after my sophomore year of college, summer between sophomore and junior year, where I got on a college summer baseball team in Dallas. So I lived in Dallas all summer. And then my job, the part-time job that I got, was at a local school doing like kids summer camp type stuff. And it was fine. It was whatever. It was just giving me, food and gas money, essentially. The camp director, he kind of had like a side business where he would train kids or train high schoolers. And he had a couple high school baseball players that he was training. And so he asked me if I wanted to get involved, help out, and essentially help them specifically on how like they can train and get ready for playing college baseball like I was doing. And so I was like, awesome. Yeah, that's my dream. I'd love to do that. And so helped him train a couple of these high school baseball players. And that was my first time getting experience actually training other athletes. And that solidified it for me. When I actually got to do that, that is where I really realized how much I loved training people and training athletes. And that was also when I realized like you could do this like as a job. People would pay you money and you could train them. That had never really clicked for me until that moment. And so fast forward the next summer, I got on a college summer team in Kansas City, so my hometown. So I was just living at home that summer. And my plan going into it was to intern somewhere. I wanted to go head first into getting more experience. So what I did was I made a list of every single gym in the Kansas City area, every single one. It pretty much did the same thing that I did years ago when I was writing out a list of all these colleges and head coaches I wanted to send a letter to. I just did that again, but this time it was for gyms. And I want to say there's probably like 17 or so, 18 gyms that I emailed, and only one responded. Only one. The rest straight up ghosted me. The one that responded wasn't even open yet. They had just thrown up a website, but they weren't even opening until the beginning of summer. But the owners were like, yeah, I mean, if you want to come intern, yeah, go for it. And I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to train people. I want to get experience. So that's what I did all summer. I interned at that gym. And it actually, just a cool note, my first day as an intern was the first day that the business was open. So I got to be there for the very first class, the very first session. And that was really cool. And then went back to school for my senior year of baseball, and the owners kept hitting me up. They're like, hey, just so you know, like you got a job here waiting for you if you want it. And at first I was like, I don't know if what I want to do. I'm still kind of like looking around or seeing what's out there. But then it just kind of hit me like this could be, I mean, I liked the gym. I liked the owners. And the reality set in is like, if I go work there, I'm basically running the gym by myself. And I was like, that sounds really cool. So that's what I did. I graduated college on a Saturday, May 17th. I don't know why I remember the day. May 17th, 2014, drove home on Sunday. And then on Monday, May 19th, I started my professional strength and conditioning career. And it was me by myself. And we had our owners, but they were all they all had their own other businesses and things that they did. So I was the head coach. I was the only coach. I was doing all of the programming, coaching all of the sessions. I was doing all of the assessments. I was running their social media page. I was going all over Kansas City, going to high school games, going to volleyball tournaments, basketball tournaments, going to soccer games. It was a great experience. And during all of this too, I was starting to build my personal brand. And this really goes back to when I was interning. When I was interning the summer before, while I was still in college, I was starting to post about the training that I was doing. I was kind of documenting my internship, and I did it through my website. I bought the domain austinwomack.com, and I started blogging. And that was really where like my online business and marketing and personal brand story really started when I was still in college. And then so once I actually got into this career and was doing it professionally, that's when I started really pushing my personal brand stuff even more and really trying to get more opportunities to get in front of people. Like, for example, I spoke at the 2015 Kansas State Clinic. So here I am, not even 1 year into my professional career, and I have the audacity to think that I should speak in front of 150 coaches, which is hilarious. But I did. I got to speak. And I remember in the speaker lineup, I was right after one of the former head athletic trainer for the Kansas City Chiefs went right before me. And I ended up getting to know him and worked with him a little bit while I was in Kansas City. But the fact that like I was going after that guy was like hilarious. Like I had no business doing that. But I was like, man, I want to push stuff out there. And I was just obsessed. Like I talked a little bit about how obsessed I was in high school trying to play college baseball. That same drive and obsession never left. It just shifted from baseball to strength and conditioning. It just naturally shifted. And so, especially early on in my career, I was living at home. I was basically running this gym by myself. I wasn't going out and partying. I wasn't doing anything crazy. When I was at home, I was in all of my free time, I was learning and studying and researching strength and conditioning. Like, I'm not even joking. That's how cool or lame I was, depending on how you look at it. I remember there was a couple times I would stay up all night. I would pull all-nighters because I was reading blog posts and reading articles from guys like Eric Cressy and Driveline and all of these strength and conditioning coaches that I admired. I was just that obsessed with, like, I couldn't take in enough information. I couldn't learn fast enough. I started my first business right after college, Womack Strength LLC. Pretty cool. Started developing a side business where I was training clients, or I would go to downtown Kansas City and train people at the memorial. Yeah, I would just actually had my first online training client back then too. And kind of the next natural progression is I decided to pursue my master's degree. Because again, I'm just obsessed with learning, obsessed with taking information in. So I found a online master's degree, and this was kind of when those were brand new. Those weren't as widespread as they are today. So I was like, I want to get my master's, but I also want to continue coaching and working. So I reached out to them. I was like, hey, what do I need to do? Do I need to take a test, qualify? How do I do this? And I think they were so new with this online master's thing, and they were just trying to get people in the door. The guy I talked to was like, yeah, no, don't worry about that. Just let me know, do you want to start fall or spring semester? And I was like, what? It's that easy? Fall semester, I guess. And that's how I got started with my master's degree. So while I'm still coaching at this gym in Kansas City, started my master's degree online, working full time, now doing my master's. And then about a year and a half into my job there, I got a random email out of nowhere. And it was from a gym owner at a gym called Godspeed in Birmingham, Alabama. Totally out of nowhere. But this guy was like, hey, I've been following you for a while. I'm seeing all the stuff that you're posting online. I really like your training philosophy. I really like everything you're teaching. My gym is growing really fast. It's expanding and I need some full-time help to come on. Would you be interested in coming down, checking out the gym, interviewing, and seeing if you'd like to work here?" This was my first of all, I was like, Birmingham, Alabama, what? That's crazy. But this is my first time seeing the value that social media and posting and putting myself out there could bring. It could literally bring job offers. And that was eye-opening. That was when I was like, okay, this whole personal brand or just putting yourself out there thing has a lot of value and a lot of benefit. And then I started looking into the gym and saw that they had NFL players training there. They had professional baseball players training there. I saw the actual gym. It was like 2 big weight rooms and then a 50-yard turf field. I mean, it was like a paradise for a strength and conditioning coach. So I was sold because like training professional athletes was what I wanted to do. That was my goal. And this was going to be my ticket to do that. So fast forward, I flew down there, fell in love, loved it, moved to Alabama. This was at the end of 2015 and started coaching at Godspeed. Godspeed was, I can say this without a doubt, the most impactful place I'd ever been in my career. From a coaching perspective, a strength and conditioning perspective, like what I learned has stuck with me and influenced my training programs, influenced my coaching style. I mean, it has made its mark on me. Everyone who does a rugged athlete program can thank Godspeed because that's where my training philosophy really started to come to what it is today. The place was really special, not just from a strength and conditioning perspective, but from the people there, the other coaches I got to work with, all of the athletes, just a really, really cool gym. And while I was doing this, while I was working full-time at Godspeed, I was still really trying to push just my personal brand because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed creating and putting stuff out there. This is where, fast forward now, we're in like 2016. Now that I'm training pro baseball players at Godspeed, I'm starting to slowly get more into the professional baseball niche and starting to push, a lot of baseball specific stuff. And so that's kind of where I saw my personal brand heading. And so, for example, 10 years ago, I started the Baseball Strength podcast. So this is not my first time podcasting. I did it 10 years ago before Joe Rogan was a popular podcast, before all this stuff with podcasts really started getting popular. I did it way back in the day. And I failed at it if you want to be objective. I only think I made like 16 episodes because I realized it's so time consuming. And this is before all the software like this and everything that I'm using now exists. It was way harder back in the day, especially for someone like me who doesn't know what they're doing. Much easier now. But I started a Baseball Strength podcast. I remember I made multiple baseball ebooks that I had for free on my website. Again, I'm still blogging, still active on social media, and I'm still just trying to learn marketing and online business and all of this stuff that now I use every day with Rugged Athlete. So that's kind of cool. Fast forward a little bit. I'm loving Godspeed. I'm so content where I'm at. It's an amazing place that I could have been forever. But my ultimate career goal was to work in professional baseball. I knew I wasn't good enough as an actual baseball player. I knew my ceiling was Division III, and just even fighting for a roster spot, or not a roster spot, but like a spot in the lineup at the Division III level. So I knew I wasn't making the show on the field, but I knew I had a great opportunity to reach that level as a strength and conditioning coach. And so every year I was looking at job openings and, they didn't care what organization, even if it was the Yankees, didn't care, even though I hate the Yankees. I was like, if that's my one opportunity, I'll even work for them. Thankfully, an opportunity with the Kansas City Royals, my hometown team, came up. I applied. I got a call back. I interviewed. I got another call back, and I got a job offer. And it was easy as yes I had ever said in my life to that point. I'm going to go coach for my favorite team, my hometown Royals team. It was literally a dream come true. And it was so hard to leave Godspeed, but it was also so easy to go to this opportunity, which is crazy that I was getting this only like 3 years into my career. I was 25 when I started my job with the Kansas City Royals, and essentially had fulfilled my career goal at only 25 years old. it was a dream come true. 2017, I go out to Arizona and go through spring training, go through rookie ball with my team in Burlington, North Carolina. And I mean, everything, it was a dream in the way that I thought it was going to, the way that I thought it was going to be. I'm just at a baseball field every day. I'm working with professional baseball players every day. I'm getting to wear Royals stuff every day. And just so you understand how cool this was for me. When I was a kid growing up in Kansas City, I would dress up as a Royals baseball player for Halloween. And now I'm wearing Royals stuff every day for my job. That's how freaking cool it was. Most of y'all probably have no idea like what I'm talking about. But for me, it was that cool. Other cool things, obviously just kind of just being in the presence of like some of these guys that I grew up like cheering for was cool. Getting to see all the behind the scenes stuff at spring training and getting to be in meetings with like the literal general manager and all of these high up people in the organization was really cool. The Royals organization is full of some of the most amazing people in pro baseball, and I got to build relationships with them, and that was awesome. I also got my own baseball card. That's always a fun fact I like to bring up. Basically, anyone that's in the dugout gets a baseball card that's part of like the official team set. So I got a baseball card. It's actually, you can buy it if you Google like Austin Womack baseball card or something. You can buy them on eBay. Last time I checked, you could buy for like $13. I have no idea why my card is worth that much. It's worth nothing. It's worth $0. It's like there's no way someone's gonna buy that, but you can. You can buy my baseball card online, and I would have grown adults ask me for my autograph. Not because they're like, oh, we got to get this guy Austin, we got to get his autograph, he's famous. No, it's because they were trying to get autographs for like the entire team set. I'm assuming to sell or something. So, they're trying to get my card. They're trying to get our athletic trainer's card signed off. So it's not me. I'm not special. But yeah, the fact that I'm having like grown ass men come and ask me for my autograph was pretty wild, being the friggin' strength coach. So it was a dream come true. But at the same time, there was a lot of cons, a lot of pros, a lot of cons, that people don't necessarily think about when you think about working in professional sports. For starters, I was making literal minimum wage, $10 an hour, because that's what minimum wage in Arizona was. Yes, I was getting like 80 hours a week, so 40 hours of overtime, and pretty much having 0 days off. So I was racking up the hours, but the pay, the respect, just being like the literal bottom of the totem pole, and the travel, just there was a lot of aspects of the job that like once I got in, especially at such a young age, and got to see it, and I was like, oh, this is my dream that I've been working towards. And now that I see how the sausage is made, it's like this wasn't the greatest dream that I ever had. Like I realized very early on that this is probably not what I'm gonna do for the rest of my career. Like I'm not gonna work in pro baseball for the rest of my career. And I wasn't actively looking for a way out at all. I was like, I'm still gonna do this for a long time. But in 2018, I had an opportunity to kind of just fell into my lap, and it just seemed like, okay, if I ever do get out of pro baseball, I want to make sure that I'm continuing to push myself in this niche in the baseball training specialty, and I want to use my experience in pro baseball. And an opportunity at a baseball training facility came up that I thought was a golden ticket type of opportunity. Like this place was going to be, kind of like the next frontier in baseball performance. That's how it was sold to me, and I believe that. I knew about this place. I knew about the owner for years. He had built himself a reputation in the industry, and it seemed like, and he pretty much was like, hey, come work for me and run my strength and conditioning. And it seemed very similar to the opportunity I got at Godspeed, where it just kind of fell into my lap, came to me out of nowhere. And I was like, this seems like a good chance for me to like really develop my own thing and almost really create my own business within the business. And so I made the bittersweet decision to leave the Royals, my hometown team, and to pursue this opportunity. And I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to. Let's just say that place sucked. I was sold a lie. I was deceived. I learned that people can be really smart on how they make themselves look on social media. They can be perceived a certain way, but perception and reality don't always have to be the same thing. Because the reality is that this place sucked. And I had to leave. Was only there for a few months. Had to leave, and I wasn't the only one. The entire coaching staff left. That's how bad it was. We all just straight up left. So it didn't work out. Now, I was like, okay, whatever. That didn't work. Still going to look for some other things. And I had a great resume. Again, I'm only like 26 or 27 at the time. Great resume. I got all these connections and networks throughout the industry. I'm putting stuff out there, and I've got some opportunities that are coming, but they're just like not good. I remember one of them was to basically run the baseball strength and conditioning program at a D1 school in Texas and also assist with their football team. And then they offered like $35K a year. And I was like, I was making bare minimum like $30K just a few years ago. And my resume is 100 times better now, like $35K to go live in the middle of nowhere in Texas. I was like, no, I'm worth more than that. And I had another opportunity that was the same kind of situation. And to be honest with you, it was tough. It was tough kind of fulfilling my career goal so early and kind of like reaching the pinnacle. Like I did it. And then afterwards, like once I left, it was kind of had like this empty feeling of like, well, I did it. I reached it. So like everything else now is not as good. And also like I'm still going to be stuck in some low paying job working 60 to 80 hours a week doing something that's not as good as where I was. To sum it up, I got really burnt out and really fed up with, doing all of these things to progress my career and then feeling like I'm going backwards, like I'm going the wrong direction. And I made the decision to step away from coaching. And I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what direction I was going to go. I didn't know if I was going to get back into coaching or if I was just never going to go to strength and conditioning ever again. And it was such a weird experience because for the first time in my life, I didn't have an overwhelming sense of direction. For most of my life, it was baseball. And then that immediately just transitioned into strength and conditioning. There was no pause, no break. I mean, most of it was just overlapped. And then now just kind of abruptly came to a stop. And that was a wild experience and wild feeling to have. I didn't know what I was going to do. And what I had decided, and this came because the baseball facility that I worked at was in Southern California. And while I was coaching there, I got my first taste of I saw a wildfire. Like there was one up on the mountain range by Orange County where we were. And that was my first time like actually seeing that. I mean, looking at the mountain, you can see it on fire. The sky's orange. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like I'm from Kansas. We got tornadoes. That's our natural disaster. We didn't have wildfires like this. So seeing it for the first time, I thought it was interesting. So I'm like looking into it. I'm looking up like, how do you freaking put out a fire on a mountain like this? I had no idea. And the more I looked into it, the more I was like, this looks interesting and looks like something I would enjoy. Because of everything going on in my feeling directionless, I actually started to seriously entertain the idea of trying it out. And the reason was mostly because I knew I needed like a reset. I needed something that was going to physically challenge me, mentally challenge me, and then also buy me time to, actually figure out what I wanted to do. So I started to seriously consider going the wildland fire route more and more and more, the more I looked into it. And eventually I just decided like, this is what I'm going to do for the summer. This was like spring of 2019 when I was thinking about all this stuff. And I found a crew in Oregon, interviewed with them, and was like, all right, I'm doing it. I'm going to go to Oregon, fight wildfires over the summer, hopefully make a ton of money because we're, running fires back to back, 14 on, 2 off, going to be rich and figure out what I'm doing with my life. If you were working back then, 2019 was one of the slowest years in like decades. So I didn't make that much money. That was one of the bad parts. But the good parts were I fell in love with fighting wildfires. had so much fun. I met my now wife while I was there in Oregon, and that was good. The other bad part was I got done with that fire season and I still didn't know what the heck I was doing with my life. I knew I was like, well, that was fun. I want to do that again, but I can't afford. If that's the money, I can't afford it. And also, like, I feel like I need to get back into coaching, but I don't want to. Like, I didn't have an interest in it, but I also felt bad. Like, I'm not using my master's degree. I'm not using all. I know I had so much experience and so much knowledge to give. Felt weird about not utilizing it, but I needed more time to figure out what the heck I wanted to do. My now wife, who I was just dating at the time, was like, I want to move to Austin, Texas. And I was like, well, a bunch of my college teammates from Hendrix lived in Austin. I reached out to them. I was able to get a job working at three of my buddies from college had a startup in Austin. And I was able to work with them. And it was cool. It was, nothing like strength and conditioning or fighting wildfires, but it was cool to work with my buddies. And then in I guess kind of the end of 2021, well, I should mention this. I always forget to mention this. But in 2021, I joined the Army. And I'm still in the Army. I just never talk about it because it's like my third job. But in 2021, the reason why I'm working for my buddies, right? I'm working at a startup. I'm not doing anything physical anymore, like I was with coaching and fire. And I wanted to get back into that. I wanted to fill that gap. I enlisted in the Army to become an infantry officer. And also the number one reason why I joined the Army, to just be straight up honest with you, was to help pay for my student loans. Because now that I got this master's degree, I got all these student loans. I was like, I'm not going to pay these off on a strength and conditioning or wildfire salary. I need some help here. That's where that idea started. And still doing it today. I'm almost a little over 5 years in of service time. Now I'm just a platoon leader in an infantry line company. But I graduated from basic training in September of 21. And just a couple months later, I saw a job opening at the Austin Fire Department. And I was always I always had my eye on the Austin Fire Department and even some of the fire departments around Austin, because ever since fighting wildfires in 2019, I had this itch to get back into fire some way, somehow. But this job opening was different. It was for an exercise physiologist position. And after talking with my wife was like, dude, you have to do this. Apply for this. This was like, it was made for you. And I was like, yeah, still like not fully sold on getting back into strength and conditioning, but I wasn't sold on staying with this company and my buddies and our startup. I still wasn't like, this is the direction. And I'm used to being so driven and so obsessed that like, it's weird to me if it's not like just an all in head first kind of thing. And I just still didn't feel that way. But I was like, you're right. I should apply for this. It is like, it was made for me. Interviewed, got the offer. And in early 2022, I started working with the Austin Fire Department. And I will say, almost instantly, that spark, that obsession came back. And it was like, okay, this is where I'm meant to be. Like, I'm leaving behind a lot of that stuff from the athlete side of strength and conditioning, working with pro, college, high school athletes. A lot of the stuff that I didn't like about that side of the industry just doesn't exist here. And I kind of fell in love with strength and conditioning all over again, this time for more of the tactical side of things and the fire service. I was able to lead our PT program at our academy. So every day I'm taking our cadet classes through PT, going out to fire stations and doing physical assessments with them and teaching them about performance and sleep and recovery and all this stuff, and absolutely loved it. Was with Austin Fire when my wife and I got married and we had our daughter. It was just really, really cool place. Definitely miss it there. Great people to work with, and great people that I got to coach with on a daily basis. And then in 2023, I started the Rugged Athlete Instagram page and called it Rugged Athlete. Now, it's funny, you can go back and see my very first post. In my first post, I talk about how I didn't know the direction I wanted this page to go. I was like, obviously, I'm going to talk about the fire service and tactical strength and conditioning. that's what I do. Also in the Army, I'm going to talk about the Army because that's what I do. And I'm going to talk about just strength and conditioning in general because that's what I do. So kind of had like all these different things that I wanted to talk about. And I was like, I'm just kind of post stuff and put stuff out there. And that's kind of how I was running the page at first. It was just whatever I felt like talking about. And then after we had our daughter, we realized we needed to be closer to family. We had no family in Austin or in Texas at all. My mom is now living in Arizona. My wife's family was in Northern California, where she's from. And so we started seriously looking at what would it look like to move to California. And I was able to find a hand crew in the area that we were looking. Reached out to my buddy Chase and was able to get hooked up with them. So in 2024, we moved from Texas to California so we could be close to family and so I could work for this hand crew. Got to do a season with the Folsom Lake Vet crew. Freaking loved it. Loved the crew. Loved the guys over there. It was hard on my wife. That was our obviously first time doing anything like a fire season with a baby at home. And she pretty much told me straight up, like, I don't think I can do that again. You need to look for other opportunities. And as much as I didn't want to look for other opportunities, I did, and kind of got lucky with an opportunity at Cal Fire, working in their unit, essentially like same exact job I had in Austin, Texas. Applied, was able to get it. So now that's what I do full time. My day job, my 9 to 5, is working as an exercise physiologist with Cal Fire, which is really cool because I get to do kind of what I did with Austin Fire, but it's more specific to Cal Fire and in the Wildland. And I mean, it's everything that I do with Rugged Athlete, but it's for a full-time job. I want to wrap up this episode and finish with Rugged Athlete, since that's what we're doing now. While I was going through the 2024 fire season, I was really thinking back a lot to my first fire season, 2019, and how eye-opening 2019 was for me, because I went from summer of 2017, summer of 2018, coaching in professional baseball, coaching pro athletes, to then summer of 2019, being on a type 2 hand crew. Talk about different ends of the spectrum. And it was so eye-opening for me to see the difference in resources when it came to strength and conditioning and physical training and just everything like that. And that's really, 2019 is where the idea of Rugged Athlete really started. And then 2024 is when it solidified. And it was so clear to me. It was like a calling. Like, I need to go all in on wildland firefighter strength and conditioning. And there's no one out there that's really doing it like this. That's very dedicated and specific to wildland fire. There's other people out there doing stuff, and some of them are good, some of them aren't as good, but they're not 100% wildland. They're still tactical, they're still military, or they're still structure fire or whatever, or they're just honestly not qualified. They might say they're 100% wildland, but they're not truly qualified to do what Rugged Athlete is doing. And I just felt like there was this gap. There was this opportunity. There was this massive need. And I thought, there's no one better to fill this gap than me. That's where the motivation to really go all in on Rugged Athlete came from. And that's where I really, really started to double down on making this a business and really dedicating all of my free time to this. Obviously, my family comes first, and I still have my full-time job that I have to prioritize, but I'm going to wake up early and work on Rugged Athlete. I'm going to stay up late, work on Rugged Athlete. Can't tell you how many all-nighters I've pulled, either writing programs or even making social media posts for the week. I mean, even this podcast this morning, you can probably, if you're watching the video, you'll see the sun's coming up behind me. The start of the video, it was almost pitch black, dark outside, because I woke up early before work to get this episode in. But I love it. Like I said it, I feel like this is a calling. I feel like I've been put in this place, in this position, with my experience, my background in strength and conditioning, all of the investment I've made on the human performance optimization side, combined with my experience as a firefighter and my tactical and leadership experience in the Army. I don't want to fully discredit and forget about that. I think that is important. It has played a big role for me. All of these things combined, I think, put me in a really good position to make a big impact on the wildland firefighter profession. And that's what I want to do. I want to change the culture. I want to help change the culture. I know I'm not doing this. It's not just all me, but I want to help be a driving force in elevating the fitness culture, making a big impact, making a change, and kind of just doing it in this little narrow lane that is wildland firefighter human performance. So that's kind of where we're at now. That is basically 20 years of experience and 20 years of a journey summed up in a 1-hour podcast episode. I'll have to check back in 20 more years and see where the heck this thing went. But I'm very optimistic, very excited for what the future holds with Rugged Athlete. I do think there's a massive opportunity, and I really do feel like we're just getting started. I feel like we're in the infant stages, and we've got a long ways to go, and there's going to be a lot of cool stuff in the future. I think Rugged Athlete is going to continue to grow, and that's the mission. That's the goal. So if you listen to this whole podcast, you're the person I want to connect with to help this thing grow. If you're invested in wildland firefighter human performance in any level, come be a part of what we're doing, even if that just means, sharing a post or engaging in a post. I mean, that kind of stuff goes a long way. And just telling other people about the business and growing the business, helping us get sponsors like Ready Bar and awesome people like that, just getting us connected. That kind of stuff makes a big impact on the business. And the more the business grows, the more the business can impact the firefighters on the ground, which is why we're doing this whole thing. So I want to say I really appreciate you listening to my journey, listening to my story. There's so much I could share. It is hard to really nail down my whole freaking life almost into 1 hour, but I tried to do it. I hope you kind of enjoyed hearing a little bit about my background and where I came from. I had a lot of fun just kind of like thinking back to all this stuff and writing out notes and, remembering little things here and there on when I started the Baseball Strength podcast. That was wild. Fun memories of recording that in my apartment. And same thing, I was doing the, similar things where I would record an episode and then go to work for like 12 hours and then come home and edit it and stuff. Still doing it, still grinding, just 10 years later. And we'll keep grinding. So thank you all. We'll see you in the next episode.